I stood frozen in the doorway of the master bedroom, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it might burst right through my chest. The moonlight streaming through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows cast long shadows across the room, and there he was. Vincent Sterling, the paralyzed billionaire I'd been hired to care for just hours earlier, was standing up, not sitting, not lying down, standing on his own 2 feet by the window, looking out at the city lights below like he didn't have a care in the world. My hands trembled as I gripped the doorframe. The medication tray I'd been carrying slipped from my fingers and crashed to the marble floor, pills scattering everywhere like tiny white bullets. The sound echoed through that enormous house like a gunshot. He turned slowly, and when his eyes met mine, I saw something there that made my blood run cold. It wasn't surprise. It wasn't panic. It was calculation. Pure, cold calculation. "Mrs. Washington," he said, his voice smooth as butter, nothing like the weak, strained whisper he'd used when his lawyers interviewed me that morning. "I believe we need to have a conversation." I wanted to run. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to turn around and get out of that house as fast as my 67-year-old legs could carry me. But I couldn't move. I was rooted to that spot, watching this man who was supposed to be paralyzed from the waist down take 3 steady steps toward me. You're walking," I managed to whisper. "Very observant," he said, and I swear I saw the corner of his mouth twitch into something that might have been a smile. "Now, we can do this one of 2 ways, Mrs. B. Washington." Before we continue, please comment below as I'd love to hear your thoughts and subscribe to the channel to help us hit that big 1,000 subscriber milestone. Let me take you back to where this nightmare really began, 3 months before I found myself in that billionaire's bedroom, questioning every decision that had led me to that moment. My name is Beatrice Washington, but everyone calls me Bay. For 43 years, I was married to the love of my life, Raymond Washington. We weren't rich, but we were happy. Raymond worked at the post office for 30 years, and I spent my days caring for our home and raising our daughter, Kendra. We had a nice little house in a quiet neighborhood, went to Second Baptist Church every Sunday, and hosted the best 4th of July barbecues on the block. Life was good. Life was simple. Then Raymond had his heart attack. It happened on a Tuesday morning. One minute he was laughing at something on the news, drinking his coffee the way he always did, black with 2 sugars. The next minute he was on the floor, and I was screaming for help, and the ambulance was taking forever to get there even though I could hear the sirens getting closer. He died before we even made it to the hospital. The funeral was beautiful. Our church family showed up in force. Sister Gloria brought enough food to feed an army. Pastor Williams gave a sermon that had everyone in tears. Raymond would have loved it. But when everyone went home and the casseroles ran out and the sympathy cards stopped coming, I was alone in that house with nothing but memories and a mountain of medical bills that our insurance didn't cover. That's when I found out that Raymond, God rest his soul, had taken out a second mortgage on our house 2 years earlier. He never told me. He was trying to help Kendra and her husband Devin buy their first house, and he didn't want me to worry. The payments were manageable when Raymond was alive and working, but now I had exactly 3 months before the bank would take everything. I called Kendra the day I found out. My baby girl, my only child. The little girl I used to rock to sleep singing, "His Eye is on the Sparrow." The young woman I helped put through nursing school, watching her babies when she worked double shifts, cooking Sunday dinners every week so she wouldn't have to worry about feeding her family. "Mama, I can't help you," she said, her voice cold in a way I'd never heard before. "Devin and I have our own bills. We have the kids to think about. You're just going to have to figure it out." "Kendra, baby, I'm not asking for much," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just until I can find work or figure something." "Work?" she laughed, actually laughed. "Mama, you're 67 years old. Who's going to hire you? You haven't worked a real job since before I was born." Those words hit me like a slap across the face. Kendra Marie Washington, I raised you better than this. I know you're not talking to your mother this way. I'm talking to you like a grown woman who needs to face reality, she shot back. Daddy's gone. The money's gone. You need to figure out your life, and you can't expect me and Devin to carry you. I'm not asking you to carry me. I'm asking my daughter for help in my darkest hour. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. When Kendra spoke again, her voice was different, harder, like she'd been practicing this speech. Here's what's going to happen, Mama. We talked to a real estate agent. That house is worth something, even with the mortgage. You're going to sell it, pay off the debt, and whatever's left, you can use to find yourself a little apartment somewhere. Devin knows a place that rents rooms to seniors for cheap. Kendra, that's my home. That's where I raised you, where your daddy and I built our life. Mama, that life is over. You need to accept that and move on. And honestly, you should be working anyway. You're not that old. Get a job. My friend Tamara's mother works at Walmart and she's 72. There's no shame in it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't my daughter. This wasn't the girl I raised in the church, who knew about honoring your mother and father, who used to tell me I was her hero. So that's it? I asked, my voice breaking. Your daddy's been gone 2 months, and you're ready to throw me out on the street? Nobody's throwing you out, Mama. We're being practical. You can stay with us for a few weeks while you figure things out, but that's it. Either you find work and get your own place, or we can't help you. We have to think about Jaden and Zoe. They need stability. My grandchildren. My sweet Jaden, 8 years old with Raymond's smile. Little Zoe, only 5, who called me Gamma B and loved when I braided her hair. Kendra was using them as weapons now. Can I at least see the kids? I asked quietly. Of course, Mama. You're always welcome to visit. But you need to understand our house, our rules. And Devin doesn't think it's good for the kids to see you living with us long term. He says it sets a bad example, like people don't have to work hard or be independent. Devin, I should have known he was behind this. That man never liked me, never thought I was good enough, always whispering in Kendra's ear about how she needed to set boundaries and not let me manipulate her. Manipulation. That's what he called a mother asking her daughter for help. I sold the house 3 weeks later. After the mortgage was paid off, I had exactly $12,000 left. $12,000 from 43 years of marriage, of building a home, of creating a life. Kendra let me stay in their guest room for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of walking on eggshells, of hearing Devin complain about the extra water bill, of Kendra reminding me every single day that I needed to be actively looking for work. I applied everywhere. Grocery stores, retail shops, cleaning services. Nobody wanted to hire a 67-year-old widow with no recent work experience. On day 13, Kendra sat me down at their kitchen table. Devin stood behind her with his arms crossed, like they were my parents about to ground me. Mama, this isn't working, Kendra said, not meeting my eyes. You've been here almost 2 weeks, and you don't have any job prospects. Devin and I talked, and we think it's time for you to move to that senior housing complex he mentioned. We can help you with the first month's rent. Kendra, I don't understand. What happened to you? When did you become so cold? She looked up then, and I saw tears in her eyes, but her jaw was set. I'm not cold, Mama. I'm being smart. Devin says if we don't set boundaries now, you'll be dependent on us forever. We have our own family to worry about. I am your family, I said, and I couldn't stop the tears anymore. I'm your mother. And I love you, she said, but it sounded hollow. But Devin's right. You need to stand on your own 2 feet. Either you find work and get your own place, or you're on your own. I can't keep supporting you. The next day, I moved into a tiny room in a building that smelled like mothballs and defeat. It was in a part of town where I was afraid to go outside after dark. My neighbors were other forgotten people, other cast-offs who'd been told they were burdens to their families. I spent my days applying for jobs, and my nights crying into my pillow, wondering what I'd done to deserve this. I called Kendra twice a week to ask about the kids. She was always busy, always had somewhere to be, always promised we'd get together soon, but soon never came. My $12,000 was disappearing fast. Rent, utilities, food. I started skipping meals to make the money stretch. I lost 15 pounds in 6 weeks. Sister Gloria from church brought me groceries twice, but I could see the pity in her eyes, and it burned worse than hunger. Then one Sunday, after service, Pastor Williams pulled me aside. "Sister Beatrice, I heard about a job opportunity that might interest you," he said, his kind eyes full of concern. "It's a caregiving position. Live-in. The pay is very good." "Pastor, I don't have any experience with that kind of work," I said. "The family knows that. They're looking for someone compassionate, someone trustworthy, someone who needs a fresh start." He handed me a business card. "The man's name is Vincent Sterling. He's paralyzed from the waist down, needs round-the-clock care. His lawyers are handling the hiring. They specifically asked for someone from our church community, someone with strong moral character." I looked at the card, Sterling and Associates, an address in the richest part of town, the kind of neighborhood I'd only driven through, never lived in. "Why would they want someone like me?" I asked. "Because character matters more than experience, Sister Beatrice. And you have more character in your little finger than most people have in their whole body." He squeezed my hand. "Just go talk to them. What do you have to lose?" He was right. I had nothing to lose. Everything had already been taken from me. The interview was 2 days later in an office so fancy I was afraid to sit on the leather chairs. 3 lawyers asked me questions for an hour. Had I ever been arrested? No. Did I have any substance abuse issues? No. Was I willing to sign an extensive non-disclosure agreement? I didn't even know what that meant, but I said yes. They offered me the job on the spot. $50,000 a year, plus room and board in Mr. Sterling's mansion. Full benefits. A signing bonus of $5,000. I cried right there in that office. $50,000. More money than Raymond and I had ever made in a single year combined. Enough to save. Enough to eventually get my own place again. Enough to prove to Kendra that I wasn't a burden, that I could take care of myself. I called her that night to tell her the good news. She answered on the 5th ring. "That's great, Mama," she said, but she sounded distracted. "When do you start?" "Tomorrow. Kendra, this is going to change everything. I'll be able to save money, get back on my feet. I'm happy for you, Mama. Look, I have to go. Zoe has dance class. We'll talk later." She hung up before I could say, "I love you." The next morning, a black town car picked me up from my depressing little room and drove me to an address that made my jaw drop. The Sterling mansion wasn't just a house. It was a palace. 3 stories of gleaming white stone, surrounded by gardens that looked like something from a magazine. The driver, a quiet man named James, helped me with my 2 small suitcases and led me inside. The foyer alone was bigger than the house Raymond and I had raised Kendra in. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork on the walls that probably cost more than I'd make in 10 years. A severe-looking woman in her 50s met me at the door. She introduced herself as Mrs. Chen, the house manager. "Mr. Sterling is resting," she said, her voice clipped and professional. "I'll show you to your quarters, explain your duties, and then you'll meet him at dinner. He eats at precisely 6 o'clock. My room was on the 2nd floor, connected to Mr. Sterling's master suite by a door. It was larger than my entire apartment had been, with a private bathroom, a comfortable bed, and a window overlooking the gardens. I almost cried again at the sight of it. Mrs. Chen ran through my duties with military precision. Wake Mr. Sterling at 7, help him with his morning routine, prepare his medications, assist with physical therapy exercises, meals at specific times, nothing too demanding. The previous caregiver had left detailed notes. "Why did the last caregiver leave?" I asked. Mrs. Chen's expression didn't change. "That's not your concern. Just do your job, follow the rules, and everything will be fine." At 6 o'clock sharp, I wheeled Mr. Sterling into the dining room. He was a handsome man, probably in his early 50s, with silver hair and sharp blue eyes. He sat slumped in his wheelchair, his legs covered with a blanket, his hands resting limply on the armrests. "Mrs. Washington," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for coming. I hope you'll be happy here." "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Sterling," I said. "I promise I'll take good care of you." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Something about that smile made me uncomfortable, but I pushed the feeling away. This was my second chance, my way out of the hole Kendra had pushed me into. Dinner was quiet. I helped him eat, cutting his food into small pieces, holding the glass so he could sip water. He thanked me after every bite, always polite, always proper. When dinner was over, I wheeled him back to his room and helped him into bed. "I take my evening medications at 11, he said. "Just leave them on the nightstand and I'll manage. You should get some rest, Mrs. Washington. You've had a long day." I went to my room, unpacked my few belongings, and climbed into that comfortable bed. For the first time in months, I felt something like hope. Maybe this would work out. Maybe I could rebuild my life. Maybe someday Kendra would see that I wasn't a burden, that I was strong, that I could take care of myself. I set my alarm for 10:45, planning to prepare Mr. Sterling's medications early. But I couldn't sleep. Too much had happened. Too many changes. Too many emotions swirling through my head. At 10:30, I got up, put on my robe, and went to the kitchen to prepare his medication tray. When I walked back upstairs and approached his bedroom door, I heard something. A sound that didn't make sense. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps. Not the shuffle of someone dragging themselves across the floor. Real, solid footsteps. I pushed the door open slowly, and that's when I saw him, standing by the window, walking, moving like there was nothing wrong with him at all. And now here we were, him standing there looking at me with those calculating eyes, me frozen in the doorway with pills scattered across the floor, both of us knowing that everything I thought I knew about this job, about this man, about my salvation, was a lie. "Mrs. Washington," Vincent Sterling said again, taking another step toward me. "I'm going to tell you a story, and when I'm done, you're going to have a choice to make. A choice that will determine whether you walk out of here with more money than you've ever dreamed of, or whether you walk out of here with nothing at all." My mouth was dry. My heart was racing. But something in his voice, something in the way he was looking at me, told me that whatever came next was going to change everything. "What kind of choice?" I managed to whisper. He smiled then, and this time it was real. Dangerous, but real. The choice between being my caregiver or being my partner in something much more interesting. Something that will make both of us very, very rich. And something that might just give you the revenge you deserve against that ungrateful daughter of yours. How did he know about Kendra? How did he know anything about me? The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 11 times, and I knew that my life was about to change again. I just didn't know yet whether it would be for better or for worse. "Sit down, Mrs. Washington," Vincent said, gesturing to the leather chair by his bed. "Please, I'm not going to hurt you. In fact, I'm going to help you. But first, you need to hear the whole truth." I didn't move. My legs felt like jelly, but I wasn't about to sit down and get comfortable with a man who'd been lying to everyone about being paralyzed. "How do you know about my daughter?" I demanded, finding my voice. "How do you know anything about me?" He had the decency to look slightly apologetic. "I had you investigated before the interview. Standard procedure. I needed someone I could trust, someone who was desperate enough to need this job but honest enough not to betray me. Someone with character. He paused. And someone who understood what it felt like to be betrayed by family. I'm leaving, I said, turning toward the door. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but I want no part of it. My sister is trying to kill me, he said quietly. I froze with my hand on the doorknob. Not directly, he continued. Nothing so crude. But she's been systematically poisoning me for the past 8 months. Small doses. Antifreeze in my coffee. Arsenic in my food. Just enough to make me sick. To make the doctors think I was having neurological problems. Just enough to make everyone believe I was becoming paralyzed. I turned back slowly. That's insane. Why would she do that? Money, Mrs. Washington. It's always money. He walked to his nightstand and pulled out a folder. Our father died 2 years ago and left everything to me. $5 billion. Victoria got nothing. He wrote her out of the will after she stole from the family company. She was furious. She hired lawyers, tried to contest it, but the will was ironclad. So she decided to kill you instead? Not kill, not exactly. She's smarter than that. He opened the folder and showed me medical reports, lab results, documents I didn't fully understand. If I die, the money goes to charity. Our father made sure of that. But if I become incapacitated, unable to manage my own affairs, then the conservatorship goes to my closest living relative, Victoria. The pieces started falling into place. So she's been poisoning you to make you sick enough that she can take control of everything. Exactly. And it was working. 6 months ago, I started having tremors, weakness in my legs. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. Then my private physician, Dr. Matthews, ran some specialized tests. He found traces of the poison. That's when I knew. Why didn't you go to the police? Vincent laughed bitterly. With what proof? Victoria's too careful. She has people do her dirty work. My chef, my previous caregiver, even my driver were all on her payroll. Dr. Matthews said the levels in my system weren't quite high enough to prove attempted murder in court. The DA would never prosecute, so I came up with a different plan. He sat on the edge of his bed, and for the first time he looked tired, vulnerable even. I fired everyone. Every single person in this house except Mrs. Chen, who I've known since I was a child. I started pretending the paralysis was complete. I stopped the poisoning by controlling everything I ate and drank. And I've been slowly recovering while everyone thinks I'm getting worse. He looked up at me. But I need a witness, Mrs. Washington. Someone Victoria doesn't know. Someone she hasn't gotten to. Someone who can testify about what they've seen. Testify to what? Victoria visits me every Thursday afternoon. She brings me tea. Special tea, she says, to help with my condition. She sits with me for exactly 1 hour, playing the concerned sister. And every Thursday night, I pretend to have seizures. Difficulty breathing, all the symptoms of someone who's been poisoned. My hand went to my mouth. She's still trying to poison you? Of course. She thinks I'm too sick to realize what's happening. She thinks I'm helpless. His eyes hardened. But starting this Thursday, I'll have a witness. You're going to be in the room, Mrs. Washington. You're going to see her give me the tea, and you're going to testify about it when the time comes. This is crazy. This is dangerous. What if she figures out? She won't. To her, you're just another minimum wage caregiver, too insignificant to matter. That's exactly what I need. He stood up and walked closer to me. Here's what I'm offering you. You stay. You help me build my case. You testify when my lawyers are ready to move forward. And when this is all over and I have control of my assets again, I'll pay you $500,000. I actually gasped. $500,000. It was more money than I'd ever see in a lifetime of working. And there's more, he said, his voice softer now. I've seen how your daughter treats you, how she cast you aside the moment you needed her, how she chose her husband's poison over her mother's love. When people find out you're working for Vincent Sterling, when they see you at my side, your daughter is going to come running back. And then you'll have the power. You'll have the choice of whether to let her back into your life or to finally stand up for yourself." Tears burned my eyes. He was offering me everything I wanted: money, dignity, revenge. But was I willing to put myself in danger for it? "What if something goes wrong?" I whispered. "What if your sister finds out?" "Then we both lose everything," he said honestly. "But Mrs. Washington, what do you have to lose right now? A room in a building that's falling apart? A daughter who won't return your calls? Medical bills you can't pay and a future that gets darker every day?" He was right. God help me. He was right. "I need to pray on this," I said finally. "Of course. Take the night. But I need your answer by morning." He walked back to his wheelchair and sat down. "And Mrs. Washington? Everything I've told you is the truth. You can verify it with Dr. Matthews. I'll give you his number. I'm not asking you to take my word for anything." I went back to my room, but I didn't sleep. I called Dr. Matthews at midnight, and he confirmed everything. Every word. He'd been documenting Vincent's recovery, keeping evidence, waiting for the right moment. I prayed until the sun came up. I asked God if this was right, if this was the path he wanted me to take. And somewhere in those dark hours, I felt a peace settle over me. Not because revenge was godly, but because justice was. Because standing up for yourself wasn't a sin. Because sometimes the Lord puts you exactly where you need to be, even if the path there is painful. At 7 a.m., I knocked on Vincent's door. "I'm in," I said. "But we do this my way. No lying to innocent people. No hurting anyone who doesn't deserve it. And when this is over, I want enough money to help other people like me, other seniors who've been thrown away by their families." Vincent smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. "Deal." That Thursday, Victoria Sterling arrived at exactly 2 p.m. She was a beautiful woman in her late 40s, dressed in a designer suit that probably cost more than my car used to be worth. She looked at me like I was furniture. "Who are you?" she asked, not bothering to hide her disdain. "I'm Mrs. Washington, Mr. Sterling's new caregiver," I said politely, the way I'd been raised to speak to people, even people who didn't deserve it. "Well, Mrs. Washington, my brother and I need privacy for our visit. You can wait outside." "Actually," Vincent said, his voice weak and strained, back to the helpless invalid act, "I'd like her to stay, in case I need anything." Victoria's jaw tightened, but she forced a smile. "Of course, Vincent. Whatever makes you comfortable." I sat in the corner and watched her pour the tea from her special thermos. Watched her hand him the cup with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Watched him drink it, his hands shaking, spilling some on his shirt. "Oh, Vincent," she cooed, dabbing at the spill with a napkin. "You're getting worse, aren't you? Maybe it's time we talked about getting you some more help. Professional help. Maybe a facility where they can care for you properly." "I'm fine here," Vincent mumbled. "But are you, though? I worry about you so much." She glanced at me. "No offense to Mrs. Washington, but you need more than one person. You need a whole team. And honestly, the house is so expensive to maintain. If we sold it, we could put you somewhere wonderful and use the money to make sure you're comfortable forever." I had to bite my tongue to keep from speaking up. This woman was pure evil, wrapped in pearls and perfume. After she left, Vincent waited exactly 30 minutes, then called me into his room. "Did you see everything?" "Every single thing," I said. "That woman is the devil." "That woman is going to prison," he said grimly. "Dr. Matthews is coming tomorrow to take blood samples. We're going to have evidence." Over the next 3 weeks, Victoria visited every Thursday. Every Thursday, she brought poisoned tea. Every Thursday, I watched and documented everything in a journal. And every Friday, Dr. Matthews came and took samples that showed exactly what she was doing. But something else was happening too. Word was getting out that I was working for one of the richest men in the state. Sister Gloria mentioned it at church. Someone posted about it on Facebook. And suddenly my phone started ringing. Kendra. "Mama," she said, her voice bright and cheerful like the last 3 months hadn't happened. "I've been trying to reach you. Your old number wasn't working." "I changed it," I said coldly. "Well, I'm so glad I found you." "Mama, I heard you're working for Vincent Sterling? That's amazing. We should celebrate. Why don't you come over for Sunday dinner? The kids miss you so much." My heart ached at the mention of Jaden and Zoe. I did miss them. Terribly. "I'll think about it," I said. "Oh, and Mama? I was thinking, since you're doing so well now, maybe you could help us out with something. Devon's business is going through a rough patch and we could really use—" I hung up. She called back 5 times. I didn't answer. She showed up at the Sterling mansion the next day. Mrs. Chen came to find me in the garden, where I was reading. "There's a woman at the gate claiming to be your daughter. She's quite insistent." "Tell her I'm busy," I said. But Kendra was persistent. She came back every day for a week, left messages, sent texts. Finally, Vincent asked me if I wanted to see her. "She hurt you," he said gently. "But she's still your daughter. And those grandchildren you talk about deserve to know their grandmother." He was right. So I agreed to meet her in the formal sitting room with Mrs. Chen present. Kendra walked in with tears in her eyes and apologies on her lips. "Mama, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. Devon was wrong. We should never have treated you that way. I've been sick over it, absolutely sick." "Is that right?" I said, my voice calm. "So this has nothing to do with the fact that I'm working for a billionaire now?" Her face flushed. "Mama, that's not fair. Yes, I'm happy you found a good job, but this is about us, about family." "Family," I repeated. "The family you threw away when I needed you most? The family you couldn't be bothered with when I was living in that tiny room, eating 1 meal a day to make my money stretch?" I know, and I'm sorry. But we can move past this. You can come home. Come back to us." "I am home," I said quietly. "This is where I belong right now." She stood up, angry now. "Fine. I see how it is. You've got a fancy job and now you're too good for your own family. But remember, Mama, he's not your family. When that old man dies, you'll have nothing again. We're your blood. We're all you've got." "You made sure I had nothing," I said, standing to face her. "You and Devon looked me in the eye and told me I was a burden. You told me to get out. You used my grandchildren as weapons. You forgot every single value I raised you with. So no, Kendra, you're not all I've got. I've got my dignity back. I've got my self-respect. And I've got a purpose." She left crying, but I felt nothing but relief. 3 weeks later, Vincent's lawyers made their move. They filed charges against Victoria Sterling for attempted murder. They had Dr. Matthews' testimony. They had the blood tests. They had my eyewitness accounts. And they had video evidence from hidden cameras Vincent had installed in his room. The trial was all over the news. I testified for 3 hours, telling the jury exactly what I'd seen. Victoria's lawyers tried to make me look unreliable, tried to suggest I was lying for money, but the evidence was overwhelming. Victoria Sterling was found guilty and sentenced to 20 years in prison. The judge called her actions a calculated, cruel betrayal of family trust. The day after the verdict, Vincent called me into his study. He handed me an envelope. $500,000 as promised, he said. But there's something else. I'm setting up a foundation, the Beatrice Washington Foundation for Senior Support. It's going to help elderly people who've been abandoned by their families. Housing assistance, job placement, legal aid. Everything you wished you'd had. And I want you to run it. I couldn't speak through my tears. "You saved my life, Mrs. Washington," he said. "Now let's save some others." The foundation opened 6 months later. We helped 300 seniors in the first year alone. I got my own beautiful apartment, saved money, and rebuilt my life piece by piece. Kendra kept trying to reach out. Birthday cards, Christmas presents for me, invitations to family gatherings. But I needed time. Time to heal. Time to forgive, maybe, someday. When I finally agreed to see her again, a full year after the trial, it was on my terms. She came to my office at the foundation. She sat across from my desk. And this time, she really listened. "I was wrong, Mama," she said, and I could see she meant it. "I let Devin poison my mind against you. I forgot everything you taught me about love and loyalty and family. I've been in therapy, we've been going to marriage counseling, and I've been trying to understand how I became the kind of person who could turn her back on her own mother." "And?" I asked. "And I don't have an excuse. I was selfish. I was scared of being poor like we were when I was growing up. Devin played on those fears, and I let him. But Mama, I want to make this right, however long it takes." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and I saw something I hadn't seen in over a year. I saw the little girl who used to hold my hand in church, the young woman who called me crying when she found out she was pregnant with Jaden, the person she was before fear and greed took over. "It's going to take time," I said finally. "But we can start, slowly, for Jaden and Zoe's sake, if nothing else." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Mama. Thank you for not giving up on me." "I never gave up on you," I said softly. "I just had to learn to not give up on myself first." Today, 2 years after I walked into Vincent Sterling's house thinking I was taking a simple caregiver job, my life looks nothing like I imagined it would. I run a foundation that's helped over 1,000 seniors. I have a relationship with my daughter that's built on honesty instead of obligation. I see my grandchildren every Sunday for dinner, at my place this time, with food I cook and stories I tell. Vincent recovered fully and remains one of my closest friends. He jokes that I saved his life twice, once from his sister and once from loneliness. And every night before I go to sleep, I thank God for that moment when I walked into that bedroom and saw a man standing who was supposed to be paralyzed. Because that moment, as terrifying as it was, turned out to be the moment my real life began. Sometimes the people who hurt us think they're knocking us down for good, but they don't realize they're actually pushing us toward something better, something stronger, something we never would have found if we hadn't been forced to fight for ourselves. I was 67 years old when I learned that lesson. Better late than never, as my mama used to say. Better late than never. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.